Hi there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel Bandy's Books, and today we are here to talk October Book of the Month predictions. I cannot believe it's already about to be the fall. I've got one of my October bookish shirts on in celebration. I'm gonna be decorating the house for Halloween soon. I cannot believe it. Hopefully that means that there's some cool weather on the way soon because it's still like over 100 degrees here in Las Vegas. So as per usual, I have picked out a handful of books that I think would make great additions to the Book of the Month box. Some of them are books that I think are pretty likely that Book of the Month will pick, and some of them are books that are kind of wish fulfillment on my part, books that sound really cool and I think would be awesome in that Book of the Month box. I split this between several different categories, and if you're new here and you're only interested in one specific genre or two specific genres, have a look at the timestamps below so you can pop around the video and see what interests you most. I also want to make a little disclaimer just because I get a lot of new viewers every month for this video. My dog Luna is in the room. If you hear some snoring in the background, that is her. I try to wake her up when she's snoring so that it's not super loud the entirety of the video, but you may hear some snorts and snuffles, and that is just the sounds that she makes. All right, so we're gonna be starting as per usual with horror, thriller, and mysteries. I have 4 selections this month. My first selection is Where the Dead Brides Gather by Nuzo Onoh. This currently has a 4.33 and 9 ratings on Goodreads so far. Bata, an 11-year-old girl tormented by nightmares, wakes up one night and finds herself standing sentinel outside of her cousin's door. Her cousin is set to get married the next morning, but only if she can escape the murderous attack of a ghost bride who used to be engaged to her groom. Through the night, Bata battles the vengeful ghost and eventually vanquishes it before collapsing. On awakening, she has no recollection of the events. And when the medicine man tries to exorcise the demons that are clinging to Bata's soul, she dies on the exorcism mat. And there her journey begins. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a little bit different than the typical horror that Book of the Month likes to feature, but Onoh is a really well-respected horror author. They are the recipient of a Bram Stoker Lifetime Achievement Award, which is an award that is specific to horror authors. I also love the elements of African culture mixed with horror, and I think that this would make a really unique selection for Book of the Month. After that, I have No One Will Know by Rose Carlyle. This currently has a 4.05 and 131 ratings on Goodreads so far. They're the perfect couple. They have the perfect plan. All they need is the perfect victim. Julia and Christopher Highgate have the perfect life. Gobs of money thanks to their lucrative shipping enterprise, an estate on a secluded island, and a baby on the way. When they meet Eve Sylvester, they know that she is the exact perfect person to be their son's nanny. Eve doesn't have any living relatives. She's lost touch with her friends, and her partner is out of the picture. Best of all, she's also expecting a child. Eve thinks that she's landed the best possible gig. Previously desperate and penniless, now she'll live like a queen, and even better, she'll have a life of luxury for her daughter. But the job seems too good to be true. Why would the Highgates hire her if she has no previous nannying experience? And what's with the mysterious yachts coming in and out of the Highgates' private marina? It's too late to ask questions though. Eve is already in deep enough that she can't turn back. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Carlyle has been previously featured by them, so she would be a repeat author. This is kind of that domestic thriller that Book of the Month really likes to feature, and I think it does well generally with their readers. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this at least pop up as an add-on. After that, I have Every Moment Since by Marybeth Whalen. This currently has a 4.10 and 143 ratings on Goodreads so far. Everyone in Wynot, North Carolina knows the name Davy Malcourt, knows the video clip of him juggling 4 balls all at the very same time, knows the Marty McFly jacket that his mother made for him for his birthday and that he wore proudly all the time. But no one knows what happened to him the night that he went missing more than 20 years ago. When the jacket is unexpectedly uncovered, his cold case is reopened, and Davy's family is thrust into yet another media storm. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is another one of those domestic type thrillers that Book of the Month really likes to feature and that does really good with their thriller readers. I've seen a lot of different stories that were very successful about a missing child, most recently a novel by Stacy Willingham, and so I could see this one doing really well as a selection for Book of the Month. And my final selection for this genre is The Last One at the Wedding by Jason Rekulak. This currently has a 3.97 and 389 ratings on Goodreads so far. Frank Satowski is shocked when his daughter calls him for the first time in 3 years. He's even more surprised when she invites him to her upcoming wedding and is determined to make make things right. It seems that his daughter Maggie failed to mention that she is getting married to Aiden Gardner, the son of a famous tech billionaire. Feeling desperately out of place, Frank focuses on reconnecting with Maggie and getting to know her new family. But it's difficult. Aiden is withdrawn and reclusive. Maggie doesn't seem to have time for him. And he finds out the locals are disturbingly hostile towards the Gardners. Frank needs to know more about this family his daughter is marrying into, but he's afraid that if he pushes too hard, he might lose Maggie forever. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Rekulak was previously featured by Book of the Month, and I believe pretty successfully so. This is another one of these types of thrillers that Book of the Month really enjoys featuring, and again is super popular with their audience, so I could easily see this being an add-on at least. And the next book that I'm going to mention is not actually one of my selections for this particular genre, but it is a notable release, so I just thought I would mention that, and this is The Blue Hour by Paula Hawkins. Hawkins was previously featured by Book of the Month very successfully, but they haven't featured her last book, and this one isn't getting very good reviews, so that's why I didn't include it in my predictions. But I thought I would just mention it because it is a repeat author, and repeat authors are always potential add-ons at least. After that, we have the historical fiction genre. I have two selections this month. First up, we have Sleeping in the Sun by Joanne Howard. This has a 5-star rating so far, but only 8 reviews on Goodreads. In the last years of the British Raj, an American family stays on in Mindapur, India. Though the Hintons enjoy white privilege, they've never been accepted by British society, and instead run a boarding house on the edge of town where native Indians can come to find refuge. Young Gene Hinton can't get out from under the thumb of his 3 older brothers, and the only person that he can really relate to is Arthur, his family's servant. But when Uncle Ellis, a high-ranking British judge, suddenly arrives and announces that he'll be staying in their humble house, far from his prestigious posting in the Himalayan foothills, life as Gene knows it is interrupted. While his brothers are excited at the judge's arrival, he's skeptical about why such an important man would be hiding out in the backwaters of Bengal. Also skeptical is Arthur. Then an Indian woman appears on their doorstep, and after growing close to her, he learns the sinister truth about the judge. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut historical fiction novel, and I feel like this is about a subject that I haven't really seen featured by Book of the Month too much. I feel like the story is going to have some really deep thematic exploration and say some very interesting things. I really hope that Book of the Month picks this one up. Then we have The Fabled Earth by Kimberly Brock. This currently has a 4.43 and 61 ratings on Goodreads so far. 1932, Cumberland Island, off of the coast of southern Georgia, is a strange place to find the opulence of the Gilded Age. But the last of vestiges of the famed philanthropic Carnegie family still take up a brief seasonal residence in their grand mansions there. This year's party at Plum Orchard is full of young men from America's finest family come to check out the hunting in the area with a local guide, a beautiful debutante expecting to be engaged by week's end, and a promising female artist who believes that she has ties to her wealthy host. But when temptations arise and passions flare, an evening of revelry and storytelling goes horribly awry. Lives are both lost and ruined. 1959, reclusive painter Cleo Woodbine has lived for decades on isolated Kingdom Come, a tiny strip of land once occupied by the servants who served on the nearby island of Cumberland. When she's visited by the man who saved her life nearly 30 years earlier, a tempest is unleashed as the stories of the past gather and regain their strength. Frances Flood is a folklorist who's come to Cumberland Island, seeking the source of a legend, and also information about her mother, who is a guest at a long ago hunting party. Audrey Howell, briefly a newlywed and now newly widowed, is running a local inn. When she develops an eerie double exposure photo, some feel that she's released a ghost, someone who hasn't been seen since that fateful night in 1932. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this has that kind of mix between horror and historical fiction, and I feel like this is the right type of historical fiction for the fall as we move towards Halloween. It seems like the perfect book to read kind of on a cozy, dark fall evening, and I could see this being an excellent Book of the Month feature. Next up is the romance genre, and before we dive into my actual predictions, I have another notable book that's releasing by a repeat author that I am not predicting for this particular book box, but I do want to mention. That's The Wedding Witch by Erin Sterling. This is book 3 in her X-Hex series, and Erin Sterling has been featured by Book of the Month for the previous 2 books in this series, especially around this time of year as Halloween approaches, because her books books typically have that magic romance theme and then witchy vibes that are perfect for the fall. However, this third book is set at the Yuletide and has more of a Christmas theme. So while I do thoroughly expect this book to get featured, I'm thinking that it's going to be a feature towards December. Usually around November, December, book of the month likes to feature 1 or 2 holiday specific novels. And so I feel like this is a front runner for a feature towards December. So now into my actual predictions. There are 3 of them this month. First up is the Woodsmoke Women's Book of Spells by Rachel Greenlaw. This currently has a 4.05 and 131 ratings on Goodreads so far. Carrie Morgan ran from Woodsmoke 10 years ago, and the decision has haunted her ever since. Spending a decade painting and drifting around Europe, she has tried her best to forget everything that she left behind. But the Morgan women have always been able to harness the power of the mountains that surround the town. Their spells and curses are sewn into the soil. The mountains, they say, never forget. When Carrie's grandmother dies and leaves behind her dilapidated cottage, she returns to renovate, certain she'll only be there for the winter. She meets Matthew as the temperature dips, a newcomer who offers to help her renovate the cottage. Before long, and despite warnings from her great aunt Cora of the old stories, Carrie finds herself falling for the charming stranger. But when the frost thaws in the spring, Matthew goes missing. Carrie is convinced that he's real and he's in danger. As she fights her way across the mountains to find him, she must confront all the reasons why she left Woodsmoke and decide if the place that she's been running from is actually the place she's meant to be. I've selected this book for book of the month because, as I've mentioned, around September, October, November, I feel like book of the month likes to feature witchy romances. And this isn't necessarily overtly witchy, but I feel like there's some magical elements mixed in. I feel like this would really fit with their typical fall romance picks. After that, we have Catch and Keep by Erin Hahn. This currently has a 4.29 and 524 ratings on Goodreads so far. At 33, Marion Laughlin has just turned down her boyfriend's proposal, walked away from her decades-long position as a park ranger, and returned to her childhood playground in northern Wisconsin to accept her inheritance, a decrepit old bake shop. After a lifetime of letting things happen to her, she's determined to start making her own moves, even if everyone around her thinks she's making the wrong ones. Well, not everyone, at least the local Heartstopper and resort owner is on her side. Josiah Cole has made some missteps in his life, but he's proud of what he has. 2 awesome kids and the keys to the type of getaway that families come back to every single summer. They're up north, home away from home. After his marriage dissolved, leaving him a single dad, he feels like he's the last person that can judge Marion for her recent changes. Besides, he genuinely likes having her around. She's a breath of fresh air. Her kids adore her, and they adore her dog Rogers. And it doesn't hurt that she's beautiful. Things between Marion and Joe are easy. So easy that they're fully immersed in the middle before they've even decided to begin. I've selected this book for book of the month because Erin Hahn has been previously featured, which would make her a repeat author. And this particular book sounds really cute. I'm picking up on some fall vibes, that like end of summer feel that I think would be perfect for a September romance. This sounds like it could be a really cute selection for book of the month. Our last selection for the romance genre is Best Hex Ever by Nadia El-Fassi. This currently has a 3.88 and 249 ratings on Goodreads so far. As a skilled kitchen witch, Dina Whitlock knows her way around a pastry recipe. In fact, she runs her very own London-based cafe, serving magical pastries to her clients. But only a select few of her friends know about her magical abilities or about the curse that has plagued her love life. It's hard to fall in love when your partner is guaranteed to have a string of bad luck the second they start to have feelings for you. Scott Mason is back from traveling around the world and is excited to start his new job as the curator at the British Museum. After leaving London 2 years ago to heal from a brutal breakup, Scott only realizes now how much he's missed out on. Now that his best friend's wedding is right around the corner, Scott is determined to be the best man he can be. But he doesn't expect to be bewitched by the maid of honor, who is coincidentally the owner of his new favorite cafe and is secretly a witch. After a weekend in the countryside full of peculiar hedge mazes, palm readings by candlelight, and a midnight Halloween ritual, there's no denying the chemistry between the two of them. But there's just one problem. The hex still holds, and Dinah knows that Scott is in trouble. In the past, she's always cut her losses, but this time is different. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut romance novel, and I feel like I mention this every month, but I would love to see some fresh blood in the romance genre. I feel like Book of the Month tends to feature the same romance authors over and over and over again, and I would just love to see a debut author get a feature. What are so cute. Next up, we're going to be talking literary and contemporary fiction. I have 5 selections this month.
Our first selection is The Witches of El Paso by Luis Jaramillo.
This has a 3.94 and 88 ratings on Goodreads so far. 1943, El Paso teenager Nena spends her days caring for the children of her older sibling while longing for a life of freedom and adventure. The premonitions and fainting spells that she has endured since her childhood are getting worse, and Nena worries that she'll end up like the scary old curandera who lives down the street. Nena prays for help, and when the mysterious Sister Benedicta arrives one night, Nena follows her across the borders of space and time. In colonial Mexico, Nena grows into her powers, finding love and learning that magic always comes with a price. In the present day, Nena's grandniece Martha balances a struggling legal aid practice with motherhood and the care of now 93-year-old Nena. When Martha agrees to help search for a daughter that Nena left in the past, the two forge a fierce connection. Martha's own powers emerge, awakening her to new possibilities that threaten the life that she's constructed. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because I have been seeing this pop up everywhere. And again, I feel like this has those perfect fall vibes. There is that magic, kind of almost a witchy vibe going on, and I feel like this would be the perfect type of selection for contemporary or literary fiction for Book of the Month. This is also a book I'm really excited to read, and one that I would personally be really happy to see in my Book of the Month box. Then we have Like Mother by Susan Reiger. This currently has a 4.07 and 152 ratings on Goodreads so far. Detroit, 1960. Lila Pereira is 2 years old when her angry, abusive father has her mother committed to a mental asylum. Lila never sees her mother again. 3 decades later, having mustered everything that she has, brains, charm, talent, blonde hair, Lila rises to the pinnacle of American media as the talented editor of the Washington Globe. Lila unapologetically prioritizes her career, leaving the child rearing to her very patient husband, Joe. He doesn't mind, at least until he does. But Grace, their youngest daughter, feels abandoned. She wishes that her mother would attend PTA meetings, not White House correspondent dinners. As she grows up, she is unable to shake her resentment. She wants out from under her mother's shadow, but the more that she resists, the more that Lila shapes her life. Grace becomes a successful reporter, even publishing a book about Lila. In the process of writing it, she realizes how little she knows about her own family. Did her grandmother die in that asylum? Is the refusal to look back the only way to create a future? How can you ever be yourself, Grace wonders, if you don't know where you came from? I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Book of the Month seems to really like featuring these types of books that are multi-generational. In this case, we have 3 generations of women, a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter, and this exploration of the family history. I feel like this is a book that would be perfect for the Book of the Month box. After that, we have How to Fall in Love in a Time of Unnameable Disaster by Muriel Leung. This currently has a 4.04 and 26 ratings on Goodreads so far. Acid rainstorms have transformed New York City into a toxic wasteland. Thousands have died and thousands more have been left stranded in the 5 self-contained boroughs under military control. In one apartment building, an unlikely family of humans and ghosts survives. Mira reels from a devastating breakup with her partner Mal, who is lost in the faraway expanse of Queens. A second-generation Chinese American who now lives at home with her mother, Mira calls out the empty radio waves with her ham radio, hoping to reconnect with Mal, or to connect with anyone at all. Across the hall, Shin, a ghost cockroach, replays his lost life, and a headless man named Sad falls in love. Mira's mother is plagued by furious dreams of Grandpa Y, now a rambunctious ghost. As the world around them worsens, each character must learn to redefine what it means to live, love, and die at the end of the world. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut fiction novel, and this sounds really quirky and interesting. I love these post-apocalyptic scenarios, but especially when they're written with that like literary style. This is really giving off that literary fiction vibe to me, and I feel like this could be a really interesting pick for them. I also feel like this has kind of those gray fall day type vibes with New York City and the acid rainstorms and just this crumbling decay. I feel like this could be a really great fall pick. Then I have The Book of George by Kate Greathead. This currently has a 3.82 and 102 ratings on Goodreads so far. If you haven't had the misfortune of dating a George, you know someone who has. He's a young man brimming with potential, but incapable of following through. Non-committal to his long-suffering girlfriend Jenny. Distant from, but still reliant on his mother. Funny one minute, sullenly brooding the next. Here, Kate Greathead paints one unforgettable but particular George. And yet, it's hard not to root for George at least a little. Beneath his cynicism is a reservoir of fondness for Jenny's willingness to put up with him. Each demonstration of his flaws is paired with self-evisceration. No one is more disappointed in him than himself. Except, you know, maybe Jenny and his mother. I've selected this book for book of the month because this book has been everywhere. I've been seeing it all over the place on social media, been seeing it popping up on NetGalley. I've been seeing a lot of positive reviews of this book and generally just a lot of buzz. And typically when that happens, I feel like one of the book boxes will feature it. I also feel like it's been a while since book of the month has featured something that was specifically humor or satire, and I feel like this is pretty much that. I would really enjoy seeing this, as I feel like this would be kind of different than their usual book of the month picks. And finally, for this genre, I have Love Can't Feed You by Cherry Lu Tsai. This currently has a 3.60 and 42 ratings on Goodreads so far. After a harrowing flight, Queenie, her younger brother, and her Chinese father arrive in the United States from the Philippines. They're here to finally reunite with Queenie's Filipino mother, who has been working as a nurse in Brooklyn for the past few years, building a life that everyone hopes will set them up for better prospects. But her mother is not the same woman that she was in the Philippines. Something in her face is different. She seems so hardened and so much more American. Queenie, on the cusp of adulthood, has dreams of attending college, of days spent immersed in the pages of her books. But there's not enough money for both her and her brother to be in school. So first she must work. Queenie rotates through jobs and eventually settles into her new life. But her brother begins to withdraw and act out, and her father's anger swells. As the pressures of assimilation compound and the fractures within the family deepen, Queenie is left suspended between two countries, two identities, and two parents. I've selected this book for book of the month because this is a debut fiction novel, and I feel like this is the type of story that book of the month really likes to feature. We have an immigration story, we have a family full of conflict, pressures of assimilation, and getting to know this new world our characters have been thrust into. This sounds like it could be really emotional, potentially have a lot of deep thematic exploration, and I love that it focuses on characters of Filipino descent, as I haven't seen too many books with that focus specifically. I feel like this could be a smart pick for book of the month, and I would be happy to see it in my book box. And finally, we're going to talk about the fantasy and science fiction genres. I have 3 selections this month. First up, we have The City in Glass by Nuzo. This currently has a 4.17 and 120 ratings on Goodreads so far. The demon Vitrine, immortal, powerful, capricious, loves the dazzling city of Azrael. She has mothered, married, and maddened the people of the city for generations, and built it into a place of joy and desire, revelry and riot. And then the angels come and the city falls. Vitrine is left with nothing but memories and a book containing the names of those that she has lost, and an angel, now bound by her mad, grief-stricken curse to haunt the city that he burned. She mourns her dead and rages against the angel that she longs to destroy. Made to be each other's devastation, angel and demon are destined for eternal battle. Instead, they find themselves locked into a devouring fascination that will change them both forever. Together, they unearth the past of the lost city and shape its future. But when war threatens Azrael and everything that they have built, Vitrine and her angel must decide whether they will let the city fall again. I've selected this book for book of the month because Nuzo has been previously featured, and that would make her a repeat author. I feel like Vo writes such interesting and unique fantasy, and this one in particular is so different from what has been published recently. I would really love book of the month to take a shot on this, just to break up that typical trend of fantasy and do something a little bit different. I think this could be a really cool selection for them. After that, I have The Crescent Moon Tearoom by Stacy Sivinski. This currently has a 3.97 and 207 ratings on Goodreads so far. Ever since the untimely death of their parents, Anne, Beatrix, and Violet Quigley have made a business of threading together the swirls of ginger, cloves, and cardamom at the bottom of their customers' cups. The days at the tea shop are filled with talks of butterflies and good fortune, intertwined with the sounds of cinnamon shortbread being snapped by laced fingers. That is until the Council of Witches shows up to let them know that the city's diviner has lost her powers, and the sisters suddenly find themselves being pulled in different directions. Anne's magic begins to develop past that of her sisters. Beatrix's writing attracts the attention of publishers. Violet is enchanted by the songs of the circus and perhaps a mischievous trapeze artist. It seems a family curse that threatens to separate the sisters is taking effect. With dwindling time to rewrite their future and help 3 other witches challenge their own destinies, the Quigleys set out to bargain with fate. I've selected this book for book of the month because this is a debut fantasy novel, and again, this has those witchy vibes that book of the month seems to really enjoy celebrating towards the fall. I feel like this is one of those really autumnal feeling books, and I love that it's about these 3 sisters and their bond ultimately. This sounds like this could be a really good read, and I would definitely be excited to see this in my book of the month box. And finally, we have Sorcery and Small Magics by Maiga Doocy. This currently has a 4.41 and 213 ratings on Goodreads so far. Leo Vander Lovage is a master of small magics. He can summon butterflies with a song or turn someone's hair pink with a snap of his fingers. Such minor charms don't earn him much admiration with other sorcerers, but anything more elaborate always blows up in his face, which is why Leo vowed years ago to never again try powerful magic. That is until a mix-up involving a forbidden spell binds him to his longtime nemesis, Sebastian Grimm. Grimm is Leo's complete opposite, respected, exceptionally talented, and an insufferable curmudgeon. The only thing that they can agree on is that getting caught using forbidden magic would end their careers. They need a counterspell and fast. But Grimm casts spells, he doesn't undo them, and Leo doesn't use powerful magic. Chasing rumors of a powerful sorcerer who can undo magic, Leo and Grimm enter the Unquiet Wood, a forest infested with murderous monsters and dangerous outlaws alike. To dissolve the curse, they'll have to uncover the true depths of Leo's magic, set aside their long-standing rivalry, and much to their horror, work together. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut fiction novel. This again has those magical witchy vibes that are so popular towards the fall, and I feel like there's going to be some cute romance elements in this book as well. I really like the idea of these two sorcerers and all of the constraints on their magic. This sounds like this could be like one of just those cozy, fun reads that really gives me autumnal vibes. I would be super excited to see this in Book of the Month. And finally, I want to talk about the short story category. So I don't have a book that I am picking for this particular month, but it is publishing in October, so I want to mention it, and that is The Mistletoe Mystery by Nita Prose. So Nita Prose has this fantastic series called The Maid, and it was featured by Book of the Month. And then her second book in that particular series was an add-on. I would expect that this book will be an add-on as well, but this particular novella is set at Christmas time and is about a secret Santa. And so I'm thinking that this might be one of those books that Book of the Month features towards November or December, even though it's releasing now. Sometimes when it comes to holiday themed reads, they tend to retroactively feature things. And so this is one that I wouldn't be surprised to see as an add-on as we get closer to the holidays. So that is the end of my October Book of the Month predictions. Hopefully you've found them interesting. If you did, hit the thumbs up button, comment down below, and let me know which of these books would you be excited to see in your Book of the Month box. Are there any that I mentioned that you're just like, Caitlin, what are you even doing? There's no way Book of the Month is going to feature them. Also, let me know if there's any books that you think I've missed. There were so many books releasing in October, so I tried to whittle it down to just the ones that I thought had a really good shot. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button down below, as well as the notification bell so that you never miss a video, and that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.